This interview is going to be a smidge different than usual. Normally, I invite my guests on because some topic appeals to me, and I want to deep dive into it with somebody else as a conversation versus a monologue. This is how basically every episode on this channel has occurred. But when friend of the show and indie author Joe Prozit reached out asking if we could do a conversation about subtext and satire, I was intrigued. What was funny is that somehow we both landed on sci-fi examples, agreeing to talk about WALL-E, Starship Troopers, and Avatar. And that last one, I'll admit he actually managed to change my mind a bit. I hope you enjoy.
You and I picked a topic, subtext, and we started just laying out things. And by the time I'm looking, I'm like, those are all science fiction movies. Science fiction is not known for subtlety. It's actually known for being extraordinarily loud in a sense. And none of these movies go outside those parameters. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how we can tie this back into subtext.
One of the things that I was thinking of or was looking forward to tackling is like satire. Satire cannot exist without subtext. Satire is just a bigger version of subtext, right? So when we think of subtext, we think of people, often it's in dialogue, people not saying what they mean, right? Like if I said, oh, sure, that could mean, yes, I agree to something, or it could mean, I'm tired of you and I expect that kind of statement from you. It could mean this whole wide range of things with those two words. And I think one of the great things about satire and one of the challenging things about satire is we're able to sometimes misinterpret it, right? And the same is true with subtext. Both require a trust in our readers, or in the case of movies, viewers. It requires people to think beyond the most blatant, obvious thing that you're being shown. It's one of the funnest parts about both reading and movies or anything, any kind of media. By the way, me and you have a challenge because I don't think we can talk about satire without at least bringing up the subject of politics. But I don't want to talk about politics.
Okay. I think the thing is people need to stop integrating culture and politics so heavily. And some dumbass is going to say this, I'm just going to get ahead of them, just because politics comes from the word mean culture in Greek does not mean shit to me. Language evolves.
My rule to myself is when I create anything, books or whatever, is entertain first. That's my number one job. And if I can't do that, I'm failing at everything else that I might be trying to do. At the same time, especially as we get into not so much WALL-E, but Avatar and Starship Troopers, there is definitely politics that are being presented to us.
I would disagree. It's very, to me, political, because if you look at it, it's all about government overreach and the fact that if you as a person don't take ownership and take some personal responsibility, you don't have personal choices at that point, and you have nothing in this world but what you're given, not what you've made.
And that's kind of my larger point, right? Is when a movie or a book or a piece of art achieves a theme or satire or whatever it's trying to say, when it achieves that message well, it sneaks in about a topic in a new
enough
light.
That we're willing to accept it and at least listen to
it.
Which I think is what you're
doing.
If you can entertain first, people will listen. They may not agree with you, but they will listen.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of my overall sort of thesis on this whole thing is subtext is witty, it's clever, it's kind of sneaky, but it's a wiser and more nuanced way to approach a subject than just preaching, right?
If we start with Avatar, you and I are going to argue.
Maybe we should start on some common ground. Maybe start with WALL-E, maybe?
Sorry to terminate. Sorry to terminate.
Huh?
This was the very first clip that came to my mind because this is such a nonverbal clip, and it's very, very clear that these two beings are still finding a way of communicating, teasing, needling each
Yes.
other, and the audience understands that intrinsically.
Yeah. In some of the like facial expressions, and that like even that you can put in air quotes, right? Because it's a two dots on this robot are
Right.
so expressive. Like there's no dialogue in this like,
Right.
besides like
Their
grunts
names.
and yeah. And but it's so clear their characters shine through so much that it's a fantastic scene. And Mo's whole character arc goes from this very regimented, very obsessive worker, right,
Mhm.
and a leader of his little robot cleaning crew.
Mhm.
And we right away in the scene we see him divert, right, because he's
Yeah.
the opening shot. He has to wait for the little light beam to light up before he
Yeah, he
his
tells
crew
them to
will go
halt. He's
forward.
like, nope, we gotta wait. Yep.
Yep. And then like right away we first see his first slip when like the dirt trail leaves the light beam, and he's like, pained about it. He's like, can I break the rules? Because I let this thing that I hate slip by, or I break the rules. And that's great.
And it's so great because later on, they involve other robots, specifically broken robots, which I thought was really clever to say, oh, we're going to take the people that society has rejected. Anyway, point being
Yeah.
is Mo's one of the few that is not broken that chooses to support Wally. The broken
Right.
robots, it makes sense that they support Wally because otherwise they're just sitting in that area dejected, and we don't know what
Robot
happened to
prison.
them.
Yeah.
Robot insane asylum basically. And
Yeah,
he is the
yeah.
one that says, oh, I'm here to help Wally because I can be. Even Eve has motivations to help Wally that are due to her directive.
Yeah. He like learns to be compassionate and caring.
If I just was trying to help someone learn, like, this is what you do when you're trying to build actual human connection, chemistry, this movie is just a freaking masterclass in that, because it
Yes.
does rely so heavily on gesture, on tone, on emotion than it does on
Yep.
anything else.
Every single one of these robots is just a example of like subtext and how you can say things without saying them, and how
Yeah.
you can say so much with so little.
We have a problem where we have to realize that sometimes you have to say less is more. If you could make your
Yep.
reader come to that conclusion, that reader is going to take that much more to heart than if you spell it out.
For sure.
Now, speaking of spelling out, I'm going to love to hear how you're going to tell me that this next one is subtext. So let's go ahead and talk about Starship Troopers.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship. The bugs send another meteor our way. But this time, we're ready. Planetary defenses are better than ever. Klendathu, source of the bug meteor attacks, orbits a twin star system whose brutal gravitational forces produce an unlimited supply of bug meteorites in the form of this asteroid belt. To ensure the safety of our solar system, Klendathu must be eliminated. We break net now and take you live to Klendathu, where the invasion has begun.
DXQ uplink on 2, 1, you're on. We've just landed here on what Count Troopers are calling Big K with the 6th Mobile Infantry Division. It's an ugly planet, a bug planet, a planet hostile to life.
Just a 5-second intermission to remind you that these videos are sponsored by me and my Vampire Buddy Cop mystery series. So if you enjoy all these different interviews and finding new authors you've probably never heard of, please make sure you're not only hitting the subscribe and the like button, but going over to ehdrake.com to check out free chapters and audiobook samples of my Vampire Buddy Cop mystery series. This is what keeps the channel going and helps me find you all these new interviews. Now back to the episode.
How in the Blade Blue Blaze is this subtext? Because this is the most overt thing I've ever watched in my damn life.
I love this movie. It's based off of Robert Heinlein's book by the same name. And Robert Heinlein was a self-declared right-wing libertarian. He said something like, I make Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, I make her look like a bloody socialist. This movie is made by Paul Verhoeven, who's a director, and he grew up in Nazi-occupied Netherlands. While Robert Heinlein was, not a fascist, very right wing. And Paul Verhoeven, very liberal and very
Right.
opposed. And when he made this movie, his intent was to take the sort of shiny, sexy glory of a fascist community and show us that it was broken. The whole damn movie is subtext. The whole damn movie is satire. And if Paul Verhoeven ever made a mistake, it's in that he was too subtle, because so many people looked at this, especially when it first came out, and said, well, this is fascist propaganda. And I bet Paul Verhoeven was sitting in the background saying, yeah, that's my point.
Okay, if
So-
anyone ever thought that, I actually would be laughing, because to me, this just screams of government overreach. The beginning is very much like, oh, look what you could do for your country. Da, da, da. It's like, that's uncomfortable. It's cringe. It's intentional
Yeah,
cringe.
yeah. You get a good chuckle out of like child soldiers, you know?
Oh.
And then we have this like clear like propaganda film, like World War II style propaganda film, and then we shift to this Vietnam era style battlefront reporter in this like brutal, gory, nasty battle scene. But we're shown these like characters in like, they're all really good looking people. These are the kind of
Idealized.
people you want to be, right?
Right.
Yeah, we idolize these people. And like, I also love the book, like I said, which is an almost overt love letter to militarism and right-wing politics. Then he writes Red Planet, where a group of workers goes on a revolt against an oppressive, overreaching regime. But plot twist, it's not a government, it's a company. We have Stranger in a Strange Land, about a man who was born and raised on Mars, raised by Martians. So now he's telepathic and telekinesis. And he comes to Earth as like this messiah, but he was also raised in this culture of like free love. So we have a space Jesus who's holding sex orgies. And if that's not a widespread range of social political views, I don't know what is. None of those views fit neatly into this left wing, right thing, none of those boxes. And it's almost like this really weird and rare thing happened where somebody thought for themselves. And that is extreme. We need way more of that, please.
Dude, we're on the internet. People don't do that on the internet. I'd love for
Yeah,
them to
I mean,
do
that's
it.
what we're
It's
missing, though.
honestly
That's why I wanted to have a conversation about subtext and satires. We've lost our ability to see nuance. And I think we're too afraid to be mistaken, right? I think we're too afraid to be a Paul Verhoeven who made a movie that could be seen as Nazi propaganda. And we don't trust audiences enough, and we don't trust in subtext enough. People hate it. People complain about it all the time, that like, you're shoving this down our throat.
Speaking of something that is extraordinarily overt and political, we have our last one, which I have a feeling we're going to be pissing off the internet a little bit today, partially because I'm going to be fighting with you on this one, and that is
All right.
Avatar.
Parker, I used to think it was benign neglect, but now I see that you're intentionally screwing me.
Grace, I enjoy our little talks.
Oops. I need a researcher, not some jarhead dropout.
Well, actually, I thought we got lucky with him.
Lucky?
Yeah.
How is this in any way lucky?
Well, lucky your guy had a twin brother, and lucky that brother wasn't some oral hygienist or something. A Marine we can use. I'm assigning him to your team as security escort.
The last thing I need is another trigger-happy moron out there.
Look, you're supposed to be winning the hearts and the minds of the natives. Isn't that the whole point of your little puppet show? You look like them and you talk like them, and they'll start trusting us.
We build them a school, we teach them English, but after what? How many years? Relations with the indigenous are only getting worse.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you use machine guns on them.
Right. Come here. I can't. This is why we're here. Unobtainium. Because this little gray rock sells for 20 million a kilo. That's the only reason.
I hated this movie. Of course, it's always a little bit, you bring your own personal biases and whatever into the movie theater. For those who don't know, I'm an Army veteran. I deployed to Kosovo and Iraq, and I was fresh back from Iraq when I saw this movie. And there's some very ham-fisted analogies.
Anti-military.
Yeah, of what was going on in Iraq. I'm not against anti-war movies, right? Probably my favorite movie that's about a very specific war is Platoon. And the big difference between Platoon and Avatar is that Oliver Stone was an 11 Bravo infantryman who fought in Vietnam. So when he came back and made Platoon, he was coming off genuine, he was coming off nuance, he was describing his own experience and not, shoving a message down our throats. And I think that subtlety is in the subtext, and I wouldn't call Platoon satire, but it makes for such a more engaging experience than here's our message, here's what we want you to believe. Now sit there in your seat and take it for the next 3 hours.
At the beginning of this, we started with Wall-E, and then we went to Starship Troopers. Both of those are very overt. Wall-E has an antagonist in the form of the little robot, but for the most part, everyone is kind of contributing to the same problem. The big people are contributing by being lazy. The robots are contributing by not thinking for themselves. Starship Troopers is more nuanced in the fact that it shows the soldiers fighting and struggling and losing comrades. It makes them human, even though it's arguing against the totalitarian. This movie, all the good guys either are on the side of the Na'vi or they change sides. Like even Michelle Rodriguez's character takes the side of the Na'vi, even though she doesn't become one.
I think when subtext, when satire, when nuance works, there's wit, there's trust in the audience. We're winking at the camera, but not screaming at the camera. You know what I mean? You're allowing yourself to be mistaken, right? You're allowing your audience to learn on their own. That's why I love satire. That's why I love subtext, is we're letting the audience learn on their own and come to it as an adult. And there's a scene right at the beginning of that clip, cliche, like sleazy corporate douchebag guy. He's
playing
putting
golf with his golf cup. Yep, the standard.
Yeah. He's putting it into a coffee cup, and she kicks the coffee cup out of the way.
Yep.
As kind of like a little like, fuck you.
Right.
But then she says, oops. But you don't need to. Much like Wall-E showed us, you can do so much with body language and action. You don't always have to put it down in dialogue. We get the point. And it's a challenge, and that's the fun of making art, is you're always making these choices, and we're always balancing on that razor's edge of, am I being overt enough? Is the audience going to get it? Am I being too subtle and it's all going to fly under the radar? It's a fun balance beam to play on. And I think we need more trust in audience. I think we need less pre-identified ideas. One of the reasons why I love science fiction is like, yeah, it's cool, spaceships and lasers and things like that, but it's so allegorical, and it's so full of themes, and it allows you to address topics that we're currently struggling with right now in a completely different way.
Contemporary fiction does have both an advantage and disadvantage of being stuck in the here and now, whereas sci-fi, fantasy, anything where you're allowed to make up just random ass shit gives you a lot more playroom to make some really interesting metaphors and project whatever the problem is into a new canvas that's maybe a little bit easier to digest.
Yeah.
And maybe not have it be so damn personal. So you got a new writer in front of you, someone who is trying to figure this whole thing out, and maybe they're being a little overt in their writing. What is something you would tell them to help them lean into subtext in prose?
This is advice that was recently given to me, and it was a hard pill to swallow. When we read The Tortoise and the Hare, we know the lesson is slow and steady wins the race. This is like a wild, obvious example, but when you're writing your satire, your subtext, or that theme, don't include the line, slow and steady wins the race. Let the whole rest of the book or movie or whatever it is that you're producing tell the audience that slow and steady wins the race.
Don't focus so much on theme to the point that that's your only focus, is kind of what I'm hearing from you. Like you said, that, coming back to the very beginning of the video, funny enough, if it's not entertaining first, no one's going to listen to it anyway.
Oftentimes, the things that I choose to write about are things that I'm currently struggling with, right? That I'm trying to figure out. So, for example, a new book coming out January 9th, Reality Reaction
That
Team.
was the next question. Yep, go ahead.
All right. But the thing that I was struggling with, and still struggling with really, is right now in our modern world, we're dealing with things like propaganda and fake news and AI videos pretending to be human videos, and all these things that on a day-to-day basis make it more and more difficult to tell what's real and what's not. And the big question that I was struggling with is how do we come to a consensus? How do we move forward? How do we make decisions when we can no longer agree what reality even is? Right? It's like I have a very close friend of mine that I've known since I was like 3 years old. We're on different political spectrum, sides of the aisle politically. I believe one way, he believes another way. Doesn't matter who believes which way. But when we come together and we inevitably end up arguing about, current events. Here. Yeah. It's like we're experiencing two different realities because he has his kind of echo chamber. I have my echo chamber, and never will the two meet. Kind of my sci-fi allegory for that was like simulated realities and outright lies and all these things where people can no longer tell what's real and what's not, what's true and what's lies. So I invented the Reality Reaction Team, which is this sort of team of secret agents who you can call and they'll show up and let you know whether or not the thing that you're experiencing is reality or not. And then, of course, the bigger question is, what gives them the authority to do that? Is there even such a thing as objective reality? Is that even possible to come to an agreed consensus on, especially like subtle things like art, right? And like through my writing, I was able to explore those ideas and kind of come to my own conclusions as I wrote it, and hopefully allow readers to come to their own conclusions as well. And then it'll be everywhere. I'm selling at the local bookstore, Cattails and Brainerd, and then Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, wherever you may find me.
And of course, we can always visit you at joeprosit.com.
As per usual, all of Joe Prosit's links will be down below. Please check out his new book or many of his other works at joeprosit.com. And since you made it all the way to the end of the episode, here is my personal thank you. Just a funny little meme to send you off for the day. And I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like current media is lacking in the subtext and trust of the audience? Is it becoming more propaganda instead of story? Or are Joe and I just way off the mark? Thank you so much for joining us, and happy writing.